Okay, so thanks for joining. There are quite a few of us here, so let's jump in with a quick introduction to your hosts. I'm Michele Martinelli. I'm a product marketer at Proxyclick, and with me today, we're lucky enough to have our very own Ryan, who's our customer success lead in the US. Ryan, do you wanna quickly tell us a bit about what you do?
Yeah, thank you, Michaela. I'm the CS lead for the Americas. I head up the team that you talk to when you have questions about how to best utilize Proxyclick for your use case. We also work with our clients directly towards furthering what they're looking for in a solution for their premise.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Ryan. Okay, so I think we're ready to get started. So this is our agenda for today. The webinar is going to last about 30 minutes and we'll be taking your questions at the end. First, we'll have a quick look at some of the things that are evolving today, some COVID-19 related and some not so much. Then I'll talk you through how some of our features can help you design a future-proof workplace that your employees and visitors are happy to visit. Next, Ryan's going to give us a product demo and show us how to go about setting up a touchless flow for employees and visitors. And finally, we'll take your questions. Oh, and before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that we'll be doing more of these going forward, so keep your eyes peeled. Now, not too long ago, we lived in a pretty different world. We didn't wear masks, we queued up in crowded lobbies, a lot of us spent much more time in the workplace, and personally, I didn't live in constant fear that my daughter's school would be shut down every week. And I think Deborah from Loyal puts it very well here when she talks about the need for self-awareness and communication as we look to go back to the workplace. Now, having said that, some of these changes are related to COVID-19, but others, not so much. Flexible working, for example. Now that's been getting more and more popular, and COVID-19 has just helped to compound that. For example, you might have seen in the news that CBRE just bought a stake in flex-based provider Industrious. But this is something companies have been struggling to adapt to for some time, whether that's the rise of remote working, which I've experienced in my career, or the increase in the number of contractors working in a much less predictable way. And many companies just don't have the solutions to confidently offer that flexibility to their employees or visitors. And that's a real problem because this new hybrid world is here to stay. Now, we carried out a survey with leading businesses in commercial real estate. And in response to these challenges, 85% said they think technology is going to be key in managing this new world of work. So bearing that in mind, I'm going to show you some examples of how Proxyclick can help you do just that. So what's new? Well, in our standard plan, you can now access a whole set of brand new employee and visitor features, which let you do everything listed here. And depending on your situation, you might already have access to all of these. If not, just get in touch with our customer success team. You can do that using the chat on your Proxyclick dashboard or using the email address on screen. I'll tell you more about those in a few seconds. I'm also really happy to announce that we've added Brevo and OpenPath to the long list of access control systems we integrate with. Now, these are two of the world's leading access control solutions. So if you use either, get in touch and find out about the benefits of integrating with Proxyclick. So how do they all come together? Well, in the past, you didn't need to worry about giving people flexible access to the workplace. People came into the same place, worked, and left, usually at the same times. But with the trends we looked at before and COVID-19, that approach doesn't work anymore. So that's why Proxyclick's Prover app lets you give your employees the flexibility to access the workplace when it makes sense for them. They can book the day they want to come in, save a desk, and then receive a digital key that gives them access on the day. That key could work by scanning a QR code at a kiosk or an access control system. Now, before they get that key, you can ask them health screening questions and only give them access if they reply in line with your health and safety regulations. This type of screening was recently highlighted as part of OSHA's Workplace COVID-19 Prevention Program, and it's going to continue to play an important role in workplace safety. We also support a temperature scanning integration, so you can check people's temperature in the lobby, and if they have a fever, you can then not let them in. Once an employee has their temperature taken, if they're healthy, they can check in by scanning the QR code that appears on the screen. It's really fast and really easy to implement. And it's also a very visible way of showing your employees just how seriously you take their health. Something else you can do to avoid crowded lobbies, people touching hardware, and generally make it as easy as possible is implementing location-based check-in. Now, this works by letting employees check in from their phones as soon as they're within a set distance of the workplace. You can choose what that distance is, and once they're there, they'll get a notification on Prover asking them to check in. This uses GPS data from their phones, doesn't require any new hardware, and it doesn't save any location data. So you're covered. Making sure there aren't too many people on site so that you can enforce social distancing is another must-have. Our occupancy feature lets you set a limit to the number of employees allowed and enforce it, so no one can book a place when limits have already been reached. And knowing who's there, I mean who's actually there and checked in, not who booked a place but didn't end up coming in, is really important. That's why with the employee logbook, you get a real-time view of who's actually there and checked in across multiple locations. That's important for populating the emergency list and being able to communicate with everyone if there's an issue, but also for contact tracing, planning and reporting purposes, and for potential audits. Speaking of contact tracing, Proxyclick lets you do just that. You have a log of who was on location in the past and who they shared the space with. If one of them tests positive for COVID-19, for example, you can then contact everyone that was there with them and let them know there's a risk they picked it up. Don't worry, they won't be told who tested positive. And finally, while it's great to plan everything ahead, sometimes it's not always possible. That's why we've developed Touchless Check-In for unexpected visitors. Basically, drop-ins can arrive unannounced, scan a QR code on the kiosk with their phones, and then they're taken through a web-based version of the check-in flow. So health screening questions, NDA signing, whatever it is you choose to include, they can compete in the lobby without having to touch anything but their phones. So I hope that was clear. But to give you an idea of just how easy it is to set up, Ryan's going to show us how to put in place a touchless check-in flow for employees and for visitors.
All right, thank you so much for passing that over. I just want to really quickly show you how quick and easy it is to set up a touchless check-in experience, both for employees and for visitors, expected and unexpected alike. I'm starting off with the logbook page. A lot of our customers, if you're familiar with Proxyclick, you will be familiar with this page. This is your custom fields. These custom fields can be fed directly into the different use cases to ask these questions either before they get to the office or upon check-in in a touchless manner. So I'm going to start off with the employees and Prover to show how easy it is to set that up. Then I'm going to move on to setting it up for visitors. They'll be pretty similar, but there will be different features tied to each use case. So for the employees to try it out, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to turn this on, and now Prover check-ins are allowed. Now, employees will want to book that Prover app so that they have access to your account. And so there's a few other options here we're going to select as well. Daily occupancy. In this case, I've got a 20, depending on the size of your office. If you have 25% capacity, you have 100 seats, maybe you can set that to 25. In terms of blocking employee booking when occupancy is reached, that's a feature we'll look at in a moment. Right now, this is not active, so I'm just gonna swing that on really quick and go back here. So with booking, as mentioned earlier, employee booking means being able to say that you're an expected employee. Without it on, unexpected employees are essentially the flow, checking in without notifying anyone ahead of time. However, with booking on, you can now book your visit in advance. Very helpful for occupancy levels and understanding if there is availability in your office. Additionally, when that daily occupancy is reached, we can have a set of email contacts that need to be notified. This can be reception, facilities, any number of people. Just separate them by a comma so they can be notified when bookings have reached maximum capacity. From there, I want to look at the booking really quick. There's a few features in particular, specifically the questionnaire. So again, like with Prover, it's not just about asking those questions when they arrive for that experience. For a more touchless check-in, we want to make sure that we're potentially asking those questions well in advance, maybe directly after booking. So if you've used custom screens in the past with Proxyclick, the screen looks very familiar. This one is specific for Prover and the employee beta right now. You can create a question here, messages, images, videos. However, I have my 2 existing ones for my custom fields list. I'm going to go ahead and just choose the first one that I want. Have you recently had any of the following symptoms? And now sometimes your field can be named as something different, like COVID question 1 or asset 1, but you want to phrase that differently on the Prover app when the employee is actually checking in. For me, it's the same, so I'm just going to copy and paste. Pre-selected answer is none. We want to make sure that they're answering yes or no. And it's important that we do that in this case because I'm going to add a smart rule. And what smart rules do is it's a decision tree. Same thing as with visitors. With Prover, you can say if the answer is yes, move on. But if it's no, in this case, if you have recently had, we would want if the answer is yes and you have had recent symptoms, well, we actually want that check-in to be denied. If you're having symptoms, please stay home, maybe rest if you're feeling heavy symptoms. If you answer no, if you're not experiencing any issues, go ahead and proceed to the next step. Right now, there's only one question, so that would be signing an agreement, or that could be the end of the check-in. I'm going to add a second question here. It's kind of floating, but we're going to go ahead and do that same thing again. It's the same question. Pre-selected answer, no. I'm going to add a smart rule, same thing. If you have been in contact here, and you say, yes, I have been in contact with someone in the last 2 weeks who has tested positive. Well, again, you might be asymptomatic. We really don't want you in the office. We love you as an employee. We want to work with you, but maybe that's going to be remote if you're asymptomatic, or you may need some time off, take some sick days. Otherwise, proceed to the next step. Now, when you set this up, you may see that it looks a little weird, but that's okay. It's just a matter of coming back here and changing the logic with otherwise go to. So if they say, no, I don't have any symptoms, then you can go back. Then you can choose the next question in the series. Just going to say that really quick. All right, so there we go. Now, in the matter of 60 seconds, I now have 2 of my questionnaire questions. With a little practice, you can be even faster than I just displayed here. If you have any symptoms, if you have had any recent symptoms and you say, yes, I have, no check-in. If you say, no, I don't have any symptoms, then you can go ahead to the next question. Well, have you been in contact with anyone who has had COVID-19? If yes, please don't come in. But if no, all right, we can accept you today. I'm going to go ahead and save that. That's how easy it is to work with Proxyclick's smart rules to get someone checked in ahead of time for the booking. And of course, with my current settings right now, if they don't do that, they can still check in. A few other things here. I do have a video of the temperature scan at check-in. We'll check that out in a moment, but I still want to go with location-based check-in to configure that. We can also make it so that there's a certain perimeter in which employees can check in. It keeps someone from checking in from somewhere that's not quite as close. In this case, I have it 100 meters, but I can go ahead and make that a much larger range. I am currently in Madison, Wisconsin, and roughly that location. So that's where my office is. And ultimately, that is how fast a touchless check-in for employees can be set up. By activating the Prover check-in, it's already touchless. There's a QR code on my kiosk right now, as shown in the slides. It's all touchless from here. All the questions are answered on your phone. You're good to go. Now, a lot of our customers have previously used our kiosk with the check-in button where you press the check-in, you go through, you type in your name. Well, expected or unexpected, let's look at how to set that up in a touchless environment. So again, these are still the same questions we'd be drawing from for the registration ahead. For a touchless experience, one of the first things we're going to want to do is in configure kiosk. It's just a quick change we want to do to the welcome screen. That's an idea of what it looks like right now. What we really want to do is activate touchless check-in for expected visitors. And if we allow unexpected visitors on site, and that's an option. You can also require only expected visitors to be able to check in. But by turning on these two options, the camera will be activated, and the QR code that the Prover app has now shares it with visitor check-in. From there, there's additional options. Remote registration. Now with Prover, we have it. It's in the general and the booking. Here we have remote registration as well. So if we have questions we want our visitors to answer ahead of time before arriving to the office, we don't want them using the kiosk for this, we can turn on remote registration. Building out that configuration flow, the exact same flow as it is for the employee prover. So if you've done the prover, if you've done the custom screens for the original kiosk feature set, same thing here. You would be familiar. So I won't go into that, but we can also have them sign agreements in advance at the end. We can customize the notifications that go out, just like with the invitation email. Go ahead, customize the messaging here to receive your credential, your QR code. Please take a few seconds to answer the required questions, where upon opening the link in that email, will take them to a web location to answer the questions on their phone. You can also set a registration reminder, and the timing is customizable. Right now I have it set 48 hours before planned check-in for visitors. And the registration reminder goes out an hour ahead. We want to catch them before they arrive to say, hey, you haven't quite answered our COVID screening questions. This is how they get their QR code in my current setup. You can choose to give them a QR code here, or you can use the invitation email. I prefer to ask them to go through the remote registration before they get their QR to scan at that kiosk. Just like with the other, with Prover, there is a chance that they answer, yes, they have symptoms, or they have been in touch with someone who has tested positive recently. In that same case, the host will be notified and the visitor will be notified that unfortunately one or more answers that was provided is not in line with the visitation policy regarding the coronavirus at this time. So that's where you can customize those messages as well. And that's it. If you've got everything on, kiosk should look roughly like this. That's my kitchen sink in the background. QR code should be up, sharing it with both the employee and visitor use case, and you should be good to go and start testing. If you run into any questions, please reach out to us at support@proxyclick.com, and a member of our team will be able to help and kind of see what might need to be changed. Thanks so much. Now I want to show a video as well. So we went through the settings, and really quickly, we want to show a video of how that looks in action. So one moment while I cue that up.
Many organizations are struggling to deliver a safe and touchless return to the workplace for their employees. This is how Proxyclick got return ready. This is Henry, and he needs to go to the office next week. But current regulations mean he can't just show up unannounced. So he opens his Proxyclick Prover app to schedule his next day in the office. It looks like there's room for him on Thursday, and he sees Anne from marketing will be there too. He hasn't spoken to her in a while, so it would be great to catch up. So he goes ahead and he books his desk. Behind the scenes, Proxyclick checks occupancy levels to ensure socially distanced visits. On Wednesday, Henry gets a link to his company's screening questions asking him if he has any symptoms of illness. He notices a new question has been added to reflect new government regulations. He doesn't have any symptoms, so his digital key is updated to give him access the next day. The key is then securely stored in his Prover app. On Thursday, Henry arrives at the office and his temperature is scanned. Once it confirms he's not over a certain temperature, it checks him in. His presence is registered and he's added to the emergency list. In case there's a need for contact tracing in the coming weeks, Henry can now be contacted at the push of a button. Keep in mind that Proxyclick also integrates with access control systems and allows check-in via kiosk. He heads to his desk and enjoys a fun, socially distanced, and productive day with his colleagues. After work, Henry heads home and checks out using the kiosk. Last time he forgot, but not to worry. The system checks him out automatically at midnight. To find out how Proxyclick can help you get back to work safely, visit our website.
So we got a few questions while Ryan was doing his stuff. So the first one, parameter check-in only once a day or each time I enter the parameter. So I think this is about location-based check-in. So you only need to check in once a day. And then
oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
We have two other questions regarding Prover. We were mentioning that a lot. So the Prover app, Proovr, you download that off the App Store, whether that's for Apple or Android. And we have a second question on, is that needed for touchless check-in? And yes, for the employee side, Prover is required. Now for visitors, that is not. So just to specify, for visitors to touch in checklists, you just use your phone's camera, and that starts the process on a browser.
So we also got one question about not all our employees have smartphones. Do we need to use Prover to check in, or is there another way? Okay, so the quick answer is yes, there is another way to check in employees. We actually just released 2 new features that let you check employees in directly from the logbook. And that works for both expected and unexpected visitors. And those 2 features basically mean your logbook can be completely self-contained. So I hope that answered your question. Ryan, I've got another one for you. So we already use OpenPath for access control. Do you integrate with it, and would it work for employees and visitors?
Yeah, so we actually just launched that integration with OpenPath. We also have a number of others, of course, for anyone else wondering. Secure, Linnell OnGuard are a few other ones. Brevo is another new one that we just launched roughly the same time as OpenPath. But we do integrate for employee check-in and visitors. So everything we showed today would integrate with that. And definitely feel free to reach out to our team, that chat in the corner on our website, to get in touch with a member for discussing, anything technical on that.
Thanks, Ryan. We also got a few questions about privacy, and I'm not surprised that's come up because respecting privacy, is getting more and more important. And it's always been a guiding principle at Proxyclick. It's really an area we invested a lot in. And of course, when you start talking about employees and health data, then that whole conversation gets even more important. So on top of automated data deletion features for visitors to make sure that you only store what you need to, we don't actually store any location data as part of the location-based check-in or temperature readings as part of the temperature scanning integration. So hopefully that gives you a bit of peace of mind there. And then of course you can also implement user rights to grant access to the employee logbook, for example, to add another layer of security and just make sure that you're really in control of who sees what information. But I mean, it's just a very interesting topic. And obviously it's quite complicated, especially when you get into the various laws around the world. But I mean, again, here, Proxyclick smart flows are really easy to edit. So you can tailor your flow in line with the regulations in whatever geography you are. So for example, the flow you have in your workplace in Singapore, say, might be very different to what you have for employees in Paris. So I hope that answered some of the questions on that. And on that topic, Ryan, maybe you can take this question. So regulations seem to change every 2 weeks since the beginning of the pandemic. How do companies stay on top of this?
Yeah, regulations will tend to change over time, and as we see vaccinations come out, I can definitely see how the messaging around the questions and any other parts of Proxyclick, such as an invitation email or those custom messages that you can see in the remote registration, can change. Changing those, if you really think about it, is very quickly. As fast as I did that on the demo, once you've done it a few times, you'll be able to do it even faster. I even use copy paste to speed things up. So again, if you have a new regulatory question that you need to ask, you can just copy it and paste it right into Proxyclick and save. And now you have a new question.
Thanks, Ryan. Just got a few more questions in. So do we provide a special type of kiosk with an integrated thermometer, or should we get it from the market? So it's not a special type of kiosk. It is an integration. It requires a piece of hardware. So there's more information about which hardware on our website. And I'll be sure to share a link to that in the follow-up email that you'll get after this. Ryan, I see we've got a few more questions. Do you want to take one?
Yeah, so I see, will it be possible to have this installed on Android tablets instead of iPads? The reason is because we had already 2 iPads warming up and they blew themselves up. No fire. So I think that would be very scary, and I apologize that happened with the iPads. However, we currently only have plans to support via an iPad. We do not have an Android tablet support at the moment.
Thanks. Okay, another one. As I understand, for Touchless Check-In, you need an app. Is it for both iOS and Android? Yes, Proxyclick Prover is available on both iOS and Android. Ryan, would you like to pick another one up?
Yeah, I'm going through this because I think okay. Does the questionnaire in advance can it work without app downloaded on the phone? Can you answer that in advance without downloading the app? Ultimately, either way, you're going to need, if it's an employee check-in, it's based off of the Prover app. So for visitors, no. For visitors, it would be a web browser-based redirection. So you don't need an app if you're a visitor, but for Prover and for employee check-in, that app would be required.
We just got another one in. Can we use a simple iPad to register employees and visitors? Yes, you can.
And then how does Proxyclick know if office space is available, as in the demo? So a lot of that is self-set. So you notice how I set a capacity limit. There's a logbook. It was in the slides, but there's also a logbook feature similar to the visitor side, where you can see how many have booked in advance if you have booking on, or you can also just set the capacity limit. So I set it for 25, and Proxyclick, that's how it will check. If 25 people are checked in and booked as expected to arrive that day, it will count those up. Once it hits 25, it will reach out to reception.
So I think we've answered all the questions, unless I've missed one. No, I think that's all of it.
We just got a quick new one. Is it possible to use Touchless Check-In for unexpected visitors? Yes. Yeah. So there were 3 use cases in the demo. There was employee, there was expected visitors, and then the third one was unexpected visitors. And so in that case, the unexpected person in a touchless environment can use their camera phone, so their smartphone, the camera on their phone, and when the QR code is read, it will redirect them to a page to answer those questions, including their name and who they're there to see. And then how does Proxyclick, how many people are in the building? So there's automatic checkout. You can check out manually. You can set it for a time. There's a few different ways to have an automatic checkout.
Yeah, so you might have seen in the video that the person was checked out automatically at midnight, I think.
Yep. And then it's required to have QR reader on a phone. So You don't need to download anything special. Smartphones are built in to be able to read a QR code just by holding your camera up. There's no download. It will simply give it a shot. Just check it out. Check it out with a QR code, I promise.
So I think that's all the questions. So, okay, so we're gonna stop here. Thanks to everyone for attending. I hope you found it useful. We'll be doing more of these in the future, so, keep your eyes open for them. And if you had a question that wasn't answered or that you didn't have time to answer, you can contact us at support@proxyclick.com. I'll say that again, support@proxyclick.com, or just use the chat on your Proxyclick dashboard. We'll share those details and the recording and more with you by email. So thanks again for attending and have a great day.